speak loudly.
It's true actually, and Dr. Nimrat, very nice suggestion. We can really have a research on that part.
Hmm.
Why we like once getting
Yeah,
into this profession, why we start speaking so loudly.
actually, there has been some research done on factory people who
Hmm.
work in the factories, even if they're at a managerial level, because of the sound of the noise of the machines, they tend to speak louder by a few decibels, and that is very apparent even when they're, in a non-noisy place. So it's something we can really work on, possibly.
See, now you, as you have put forth a research or a study kind of thing. So let's begin our class from here only. So let's take a look on, because this would be our last class for this module. So let's like take up a project kind of thing, and we'll be taking about all the parts or the units we covered so far in the module. So when we talk about, like we discussed in the very initial classes, that what actually applied psychometrician does, or how an applied psychometrician is different from a psychometrician, and how this applied psychometrics field came into the place. So when we talk about the applied field or applied psychometrics, we usually try to find out the solutions to the problem, right? Because why do we research? If I would ask you some, if I would really want to know, why do we do a research? Like, why, Dr. Nimrit, you are suggesting us to do a research on this? Only the things you already told us, that this kind of research has been taken place at some factory workers. So this kind of research has already been taken place. Then why you want to do uh, like formulate this kind of research again?
I think to make it current, to see whether, that's true, not true, to what extent there
Hmm.
could be a change, what could be the other variables intervening. No
Okay.
two researchers can be the same.
Yes. Very nice. Anything else?
Especially the population in which we'll study, that will be different. So we can make our population specific, and then we can discuss, as ma'am said, that studying some other variables, studying the relationships with other variables of these, but this particular variable which is already being studied. So that can make a difference.
Like
And then
basically,
thinking of the solution as well, like what, because if we'll know that what factors are causing, what are the predicting variables, what is happening, what are the kind of consequences, by doing these researches we can make an intervention plan according to that.
so what do you think? Every time a research leads to a solution?
No, but it leads to the addition of knowledge, for sure. Even if suppose we made a hypothesis and it is disproved, but then also we have gained some knowledge. So every time, that is for sure, that after doing a research you will gain some knowledge about that. Of how we are utilizing that knowledge, that is, I think, that can change, that can vary.
So yeah, basically we try to imply one solution to various other issues also. Like, it, don't you think it is kind of applying it like as an analogy? You understand analogy?
Yes, yes. As an analogy, we can utilize these things as well. Like many times in counseling, we do that. To help clients understand something, we use analogies so that it becomes easier for them to understand. So I think, yeah.
And so many times we try to, like, what advice worked with the one of the client, we try to repeat that with the other client also, don't we? We, though the individual differences works, but still we try, like, to what extent this person can also go with that piece of advice. So yes, we
Yes.
try. Not every time you are getting the exact solution, you get alternatives. That's what we say. And we also try to approve, disapprove hypothesis. In the meanwhile, we also try to introduce certain new variables. We try to seek what could be the mediating variables, how the problems, how this variable has been modified or being manipulated, or how it is being affected, how much we can make it further, or how much far we can take this research further. So these all things are the part of applied psychometry. That's what we all discussed from the like last 2 3 days of the classes we were discussing. So today our class would be focusing more on that part. Also we'll be discussing a little more on the parts of variables, types of variables, giving a hint of measurement skills, and also the rating skills will be try to discover. So I hope the screen is visible. Is it?
No, not yet.
Okay. Maybe it's taking a while to operate, but it
Yes, it is visible now.
okay. Thank you so much. So yeah, so what actually variables are? See, we all are aware about these topics, but these are certain things which I really felt we need to discuss. Though it is not mentioned in our syllabus, but these are certain tidbits or the hidden part of the syllabus we all should be aware. So variables, we all are know that which are the attributes of the constructs, which are the qualities, properties, characteristics of a person, things or situations that changes or varies. Variable means which varies. Whatever which keeps changing, which is dynamic in nature, is a variable. So frequently, even in the UG level, we tend to discuss about two kinds of variables. Though there are certain other variables take had their roles, but we used to discuss only these two variables. Even in our when we used to write our reports, we talk about these two variables, that is independent variable and the dependent variable. Independent variable, that's if we say the X variable, which we call as a experimenter's variable, right? Like, because it is manipulative in nature. On that independent variable, the dependent variable is based upon. We all are aware how we, if I would say, um, I wish to see the effect of music on sleep. Very common example. If I wish to see effect of music on sleep, so what do you think would be independent variable? Independent variable.
Music is the independent variable and dependent is sleep.
Correct. So because this is what we are seeking, but only music would be having its effect. There would be certain like the rhythm, the tone, the frequency. Won't it be hampering the music or the quality of sleep? Do we consider those under the independent variable?
No. Yes, those are the aspects that need to be controlled.
All the aspects. Can you control all the aspects?
It's not possible, but that is what we are seeking to be as close to being uh, uh, as objective, like keeping it all controlled as much as we can. I mean, of course, it's impossible. We cannot.
Acha, chalo, if I not take the example of this music and sleep, what do you think about the demographic variables? The demographics of the person whom, the subject on whom you are administering a tool. What do you think about those demographics? Won't it intervene with your research? Like if a person
That's
is
what
coming from a low socioeconomic status background. Sorry, somebody was saying something.
I said yes, yes.
So how they then why how could you control those factors? How they are the, yeah, they are extraneous variables. Only we talk about the extraneous variables. How they can be controlled? Okay, so these are the certain things we need to talk about, the areas of the research when we are working as an applied psychometrician. So here is an example, if I will take you, is stress related to health. So again, very common example, X is taken as the independent and stress, and health is your Y, the dependent variable. So we are doing the how stress is related to health. Now comes this mediator and moderator variable. So anyone have an idea about what is mediator variable and what is moderator variable?
Confounding.
Sorry, Varsha ji, are you speaking? Because your voice is coming very low to me. Either you are sitting too far from your microphone,
No,
or
ma'am. This Sukhsiddhi is saying, ma'am.
oh, I'm so sorry, Sukhsiddhi. I heard your voice for the very first time, I would say.
Mediator variable is confounding variable, I guess.
Oh, then what is confounding variable?
Confounding variable is a variable which affects both IV and DV.
Okay, so as per you, mediator is confounding.
Yeah.
Okay, and what is moderator?
Moderator variable I have to study.
Okay, anyone else? By the time
Uh,
Sukhsiddhi takes her time.
Okay, mediator variable, as like we can see from the picture as well, the diagram. So mediator variable is that kind of variable which is affected by the independent variable, which means that is dependent on the independent variable, but will also be affecting dependent variable, which means that becoming a predictor for dependent variable. So basically, as we in general sense, if we are suppose a very common example which I use for explaining this concept to the students is, for example, when two people fight, so
Hmm.
we talk about one mediating between those two, right? So mediator variable is kind of that, which mediates between the independent variable and dependent variable. Whereas moderator variable is kind of a you can think of it like a regulator. Like suppose it will affect. It will not directly affect those independent variable or dependent variable, but it will have an effect on the kind of relationship which the independent variable and will have on the dependent variable. Like like it will affect the strength of the relationship. So if we want to take an example, I'm trying to think of an example. Suppose if we are saying that IQ is having an effect on the academic performance. So here we can say, okay, IQ is independent variable and the performance is dependent variable. But here other factors can mediate as well. Like for example, the kind of teaching they are getting. Or the way of teaching or the kind of books they have got, something like that, that will mediate between the relationship of IQ and how it will affect the academic performance. Like IQ will affect, oh, I don't know if my example is actually right, but yeah, that is it. I'm
Go
not
for it.
able to think of
No,
the
it's
exact
it's good.
example.
Like let me take your first all example. I got an idea from that only. You gave the
Hmm.
example of fight now. So
Yeah.
let's take an example of like two people are fighting with each other.
Hmm.
One is the reason for the fight, and the other is just contributing into the fight. Okay.
Hmm.
So somehow let's take a cause. If a senior comes in with the fight of a junior, so the
Hmm.
mediator variable would be the teacher who tries to pacify both the people. Ki, no,
Hmm.
you need to like please don't go for it. And moderating variable, I would say, would be those who would be like the cheering up. Yeah, the fight is going on. Don't you think like that?
Yeah, something like that. Very like in a simple term, we can say that.
Okay, so what is happening? The mediator variable, it's like a catalyst. In a chemistry wala
Yes.
term, it is a catalyst. It is helping you in the form of the reaction. Whether the reaction will be fast, slow, yeah, no reaction, the mediator is working in between. But the
Hmm.
moderator is just the one which is just actually waiting, or I should say, like I gave you example of the observant in the like who are promoting, yes, fight should be going, or there are some people na, who are on the both the sides. Yes, you are correct. Yes, you are correct, and they are on not on both of the side, but they are just like just they are just interested into the fight. Whether whosoever wins, they are just interested into the fight. So that is the moderator variable. They are just interested into the relation to be happening. They are not even considerate ki whether the positive relation or the negative relation going on. They are just concerned with the relation to take place. So hence you can understand the mediator and moderator variable. And the example you gave about the IQ wala, that is also works for that piece of thing. Because if I say if not even, let's not restrict ourselves by taking it as an IQ. We can just say the involvement in the class. If I say
Yeah.
so how much student is involved in the class, so the mediating variable would be how much the child attendance of the child in the class, like how much time he or she is coming to the class. Then only he or she would be able to involve into the classroom activities. How relation he or she shares with the teacher or with the peers, then only he or she would be able to have like involvement into the class. So there are certain mediating variable. And what you were suggesting for the moderating variable, Anjali,
No,
for
actually,
this?
I've not suggested anything, but like we can take, I think in your example, the moderating variable would be maybe like if the example in which you gave, where dependent variable is the performance and independent variable is the involvement. So I think that can be moderated by the kind of teacher or something like that. Like the strength will increase, like it will not affect the involvement directly, but something
it
like
will
that means
it is fostering the development, it is fostering
development,
the,
huh?
yeah, it is
How much
fostering
that
the,
the child
huh,
will be involved and then how it will be affecting their performance, that is moderated by the kind of teacher which they can have, like something like
yeah,
that.
correct. So this kind of research we can formulate. You can, so in every time take these kinds of research, when you are performing certain researches, so you need to identify the mediating moderator and how these variables can be utilized for the further procedure. So this was a little for so this is a small example for all of you. This is for teachers educational attainment, teachers training competence, and students academic achievement. So for example, in a sample illustration above, like you can see this example. So what it is has, it is an exogenous variable, while teachers teaching competence is endogenous variable. Acha, what do you understand from exogenous and endogenous variable? These are two new terms coming up. Anyone? Hello? Anyone? Acha, let's
Yeah,
not take it as bolo. Is
I
somebody?
don't exactly remember, but is it something related to like when we draw these models of like mediation model and moderation model, it is something related explained on the basis of model, is it?
Actually, exogenous is what is visible outside, what like educational attainment of the teacher. You can see the degrees which the teacher will have it. And teaching competency is talking about endogenous variable. So endogenous variable is what is within yourself, within the teacher. So this quality is competence is endogenous, and educational attainment is exogenous. For example, any person can attain so many educational degrees, forming an exogenous variable, whereas there would be only hand-picked teachers who would be efficient enough to deliver the content which the students understand well. So there is where endogenous variable works as competence of the teacher.
Very nice answer given by Vaishali. So true. So basically, exogenous and endogenous is so much of related to the exomorphic and endomorphic. If you have ever studied the biological wala part, it is so much of related to that wala, say exo and endo. So it is exo is what is visible outside, and endo is which is hidden inside. So when what is visible to outer layer, which is visible to to everyone. You can say it as an exogenous, and one thing which you need to study but it is not visible, it is hidden, you need to identify with certain other things, then it is an endogenous variable, nothing else. It's just that term is used. So what is happening, it is said that this endogenous variable, that is which is hidden inside, is acting as a dependent variable with respect to the independent variable, which is actually the exogenous, which is the teacher's educational attainment, like Varshaji has already mentioned. So however it acts as an independent variable with respect to a dependent variable, student academic achievement. So don't you think it is working as a mediating variable?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Right? So what it is happening, how the teachers teaching see, the teacher is, so if I want to study the level of teachers, yeah, I would like to see the effect of teachers learning or educational qualification of teacher on an student's achievement. If my research is about to study the effect of how qualified the teacher is on the fact of on the student's achievement. So basically each one of us have gained knowledge from the same book, maybe from the same teacher, but how we deliver it to our students will make or will bring the change. So that is working as a mediating variable for all of us in this research. So there are certain other variables, like because one of you were mentioning about the confounding variable also now. Somebody was saying for the confounding variable. So there are three other variables which I wanted to talk is extraneous, confounding, and intervening. So extraneous are more or less we take consider as the controlled wala part. Whenever we do certain experiments, for example, if you are doing memory drum ka experiment or learning ka experiment, so we usually make a note of the noise was controlled or the room was like brighten up very nicely. So these are the areas which will affect our variable, but we cannot measure those, so we are controlling them in say, in some or the other way. So these are the extraneous variables, exist in all studies and can affect the measurement of study variables, and the relationship also, like from these variables who they will affect, but they are classified or recognized because they are usually controlled or uncontrolled. Sometimes we take them as constant also. Acha, you remember Muller-Lyer illusion? Have you ever administered Muller-Lyer illusion experiment?
Yes, yes.
So do you remember how we used to take a constant in that? ऐसा कुछ याद है? There were certain
Yeah,
errors we used to measure.
the standard size of one of this line.
Yeah, so that
हाँ
was so actually independent now.
हाँ हाँ, yeah,
On
yeah.
that, see, for those a quick recall, so it used to have a stagnant line would be there of 15 centimeter or millimeters, whatever the scale you are using would be provided to you, and on the basis of that the subject has to adjust the other arrow headed line to just to make it equal, look equal, appear equal to that given line. So independent variable that was, and the dependent variable what we were using trying to equalizing. But we tend to identify the movement error, we tend to identify the space error, if you remember.
Yes, yes.
So the movement error usually says for the inward outward movement, or space error usually says whether it is the movement in the right direction or into the left direction, and we usually get a constant number and we subtract it from the average, and we get to know कि our subject is overestimated or a subject is giving a lower estimation. Remember like this ऐसा कुछ पढ़ते थे, if you all can recall.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we were actually doing, those were something things were taken as constant. Yeah, you can't avoid it. They will affect it every time. So we just take it as a constant, and keeping them as constant, we'll study each and everything. It's a simple thing that we used to do while we were measuring any of the experiment. Then comes this confounding variable. So these are the extraneous variable which either not recognized until it is in the progress or are recognized before they are initiated. Either they will be recognized before the process of the initiation, or they will be remain hidden until unless you are able to recognize it. So what could be the example for the confounding variable? These are actually those variables which you cannot control ultimately. So are there any variables you have identified while doing any experiment which are not able to be controlled? Some
Like the
amount of will be
atmospheric
there.
temperature, which it
Yes,
will affect the performance, but actually we cannot control it, or sometimes it goes unrecognized also.
yes. Anything else?
Motivation to perform any kind of task with respect to any research, filling the
Correct.
questionnaire.
Correct. That is actually considered
Motivation.
one of the major confounding variable which remains every time with all of us. If even if you are administering it with the students, if they are not motivated, then you just like be louder or whatever you can do. You can't make them do things what you want them to do. So yes, it's become difficult. And then comes the intervening variable. These are the confounding variables that intervene between the cause and effect. So these are certain variables which will ultimately affect, that is for sure, they will affect your responses or your dependent variable. So ultimately your, henceforth we usually take consider the error reports also. We do provide. Acha, chalo again give an example of uh, have you ever used accessometer or vernier caliper in physics की language में used to say 2 point stimulus threshold?
Yes, we did that
The
experiment.
psychophysical experiment.
Mm.
The example I am giving you from the psychophysics isliye because they are very quick to recognize and you can easily identify the variables in that. So if you remember the psychophysics wala experiment, like is everyone aware about the 2 point threshold wala Weber-Fechner laws?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we used to do, you just need to like on your arm you need to take pinch the put into that vernier caliper, and we made sure that whether your first point you are feeling or the second point you are feeling. So many times it used to happen ki the you maybe your hand is being stitched like touched to the skin, right? Or sometimes it used to happen the instrument is affecting your responses. It's loose, so it will ultimately giving you the erroneous report. So these are the certain variables. Sometimes we need to consider those variables as it is, and then also we identify our relations. When we have discussed the variables, we need to discuss about the construct and the concept. So we have covered already it in the earlier classes, but it is again an recapitulation for all of you. So construction, it is an abstraction of the concept. So it talks about like how deliberately and consciously you are adopting for a specific purpose as per the Kurlinger. And also it says that it is an idea. Construct is an idea which gives us like how things will be proceeding for the further. Then there are certain direct and indirect observation takes place. So we have the broad areas of studies. We take the abstract. Like sometimes there are certain things which are not easily or directly observable. Like maybe complex have so many parts to be studied. For example, like these are certain examples I was able to identify: the life satisfaction, happiness. Now though we have the tools, but still you cannot give it a way through it by just a direct observation. Like how will you measure the love? How will you measure a love between a mother and a child? How will you measure a love between siblings? Even these are certain attributes or the concepts which, mm, how will you measure? Like we do have the scales to measure subjective well-being, ultimately the happiness. We do have these scales measuring the life satisfaction. We do have the scales measuring the certain other attributes, but you can't ever say, or you not every time it is possible na, ki, I love you this much or I love you that much. I love you in 1 kg. My love is 1 kg to you. Can we say that? It's not possible. So by observation, these certain things are not possible. So those are the abstract ideas. Then comes into the picture is concept. So an abstract or a general idea which is derived from the specific instances. We try to draw the concepts from the situation. So it is generally accepted collection of meanings or characteristics associated with certain objects, coordinations, situations, or behavior. So, like, if I would ask you, what is the concept of this class? Chalo, a question for you all. What is the concept of this class? Do we have a concept in this class? Or what is the concept of this course? Why in the very first place this kind of course should be introduced, or why you as a researcher has opted this course? What is the concept behind it? Anyone?
To have the basic knowledge of statistics and research methodology and tool development.
Okay. Anything else?
Having the framework in terms of all these aspects and classifying all those aspects into various modules.
Hmm. So is the concept is subjective or objective? My other question is.
Of course, it will be objective
How come objective?
because you are able to categorize it into like subdivisions, and you are also assessing us in terms of that.
Okay.
So, in terms of that, it is objective and subjective from the other aspects. So, it is both subjective and objective.
Yeah, it is both. When we try to identify, because like I'm taking your individual opinions also. We have a set in every topic you got outcomes from this unit what you will be getting, right? So those are the objectives we used to have, but subjective things is what actually you have gained. So many times uh, we uh, we get much more than what is being expected from the unit to deal. So when we define the construct, it is just a mere definition conceptually and operationally. I am again, this is a difference on how, because this was a part of, like, if of a concept, it is income and educational attainment, whereas the construct would be the socio-economic status. If we talk about the construct is love, so the concept would be the love between the pins, like the example I was giving you. So that was a concept, and construct was the abstract idea. And concept, you were identifying small chotu the thing that were giving you the basic notion about that construct.
So,
So henceforth,
basically, concept will be more in terms of qualitative explanation of the construct.
correct.
Construct will be more quantitative. Socioeconomic state.
Yes. Henceforth, you are trying to measure that. Henceforth, you say, yeah. So that's how we usually say, na, ki, that's why I give you the example of how we try to, why it is not, we can measure it from the direct observation, right? Then comes the, again, this is giving you the definition because this presentation will be provided to you. So a definition must be there. So a student cannot be measured but indicates of his weight, intellectual capacity, achievements in mathematics, punctuality and other properties can be. So you cannot measure how good a student is. You can just measure his or her related characteristics, which ultimately defines that he or she is a good student, right? You cannot measure that how much I adore you or how much I love you. You can just identify by the characteristics associated with that relationship. So that's how we measure the constructs. So when we talk about the construct concept, then we talk about the properties also. So a concept or a logical construct which describes a particular characteristics which is common to all of us. So we take it as a property or a characters, major characteristics. So the example is given is the punctuality or the management by which a keynote by which you can identify the whole area. Then the indicants, like I have already discussed, the characteristics, like Ritu is never late for the class. If I would say, ki Ritu is a very good student. Acha, all of you remember halo effect? What is halo effect?
On the basis of inadequate data, you are likely to make a generalized impression that is nothing but halo.
Yeah. So what we are doing in that? We are just like, if I would like to say, if I would say Sukhsiti is, uh, Sukhsiti, what are you like? You are punctual. Let's take an example of Sukhsiti is punctual. So ultimately, I am assuming कि because she is punctual, so she would be. What other things I can say related to that?
Hardworking, committed, sincere, all that stuff. So it becomes like a halo around her. One
Yeah,
quality is general blown out of that proportion, and the person is seen in that light.
correct. The hello is actually the light coming up from the
Yeah,
behind.
gods, the way the
God, the
gods are shown.
divine. Yeah, the
Yeah.
divine. We are the divine. So
We don't judge the book by its cover.
no, but I guess I must say that whatever the characteristics have or the attributes mentioned by Dr. Nimrit, Sukhsiti, you won't refuse from those attributes. They are not bad attributes actually being mentioned to you. I guess they are true, right?
I'll just give an example, a very good example, where, we get trapped in that. You see, people who speak well, who have a good command over the language, we attribute so much more to them. They'll be hardworking, they'll be sincere, they'll be bright, but they may not be any of that. And people from a vernacular medium who struggle with the language can be so devoted and
Agreed.
hardworking. So, many times, at least when we are recruiting people also in the managerial position, we have to make sure that we don't fall into that trap of making an error, that language gets, glorified. Um, so, I mean, that's one of the things, that's the halo effect, the
Yeah,
horn
That
so
effect
happens.
true.
and the
Very
halo
apt
effect. There are two.
example.
Yeah, that happens with everyone. Like if
Yeah.
I talk specifically, please don't like, I am not, I'm just speaking about what is being mentioned into the books or what I have observed is, like, we being from a country who have seen the Britishers ruling on us, we still have an attraction towards the fair skin. We tend to feel that the person who is fair will be smart, will be intelligent. We just make this notion, don't we? We try to do so. Isn't it also there?
Yes, yes, very true. Like for with many people.
Yeah, it happens in
Like
every
even in
second.
babies, I have seen like towards babies, people have different this thing because of
Yeah,
their skin color.
the skin color. So yes, this happens. So this is how we usually formulate, and on the basis of all these, we models up a theory. So a theory, it is a set of interrelated constructs, concepts, definitions, and proposition that present a systematic view or phenomena by specifying relationships among the variables with the purpose of explaining and predicting the phenomena. So its theory is more or less based upon what the construct, the concept, the areas are being provided to us, and on the basis of that, we try to find out certain relationship and try to explain the relation. Henceforth, that's how the theory is built upon. There are certain theories. You will feel there are so many theories which are not anymore used, but still we take care of that. You can take up of any theory of emotions, like whether it is the Shastra Singh theory, Cannon-Bart theory, jam slang theory, or even if you take the facial feedback hypothesis. So yeah, these are certain things which are since long. Or if we take about the theories from the memory, yeah, Atkinson-Shiffrin model, or there are certain the IP model. So these are built upon certain concept, and they are ultimately, each and every theory has their set of rules. Like if we talk about the emotion theory, so sometimes they will say the ANS would be working simultaneously, or sometimes they will say ki you will be giving it a cognitive appraisal, and then you will be identifying ki how it is happening, or sometimes it will say ki you will be working as if whatever you are seeing or visible to you. So each and every theory is based on their set of constructs or the concept, and we try to explain the relations. So these, because again I was talking about certain psychophysical experiments, so I just thought like give you a quick recap of what were those three methods of psychophysical methods. So method of limit, method of constant stimuli, and method of average error. By these three psychophysical methods we used to measure the psychophysical stimuli, etc. So method of limit, it there in from this I hope you all are aware about the J and D, the just noticeable difference. We all know the 50% time, how much times the threshold is visible to us, or we can feel it, or you are able to identify the threshold. So these are the three methods how we identify these. Then this is the level of measurement I hope sir has already covered with you all, like the nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So for a nominal, I just gave you an example of like the numbers. Anyone having a number 1, 2, or 3 without having any identity to it, just numeral, henceforth it is a nominal. Ordinal, when we are ranked in a certain way. The interval, though we have a very good example of the IQ scores, but again, interval scale I have mentioned about the temperature. For the ratio scale, because ratio is having the strongest of all the measurement scale, have the characteristics of all the three. So I have given you example of height and weight, and perhaps some psychological measures which are actually are into the ratio scale. Now my question to all of you, we all have completed this module. Can you give me an example of ratio scaling?
It's okay, height and weight. Like the marks of a student.
Would be in a ratio scale?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
How?
Because we can the marks of like the marks in a test, I'm saying. Like
Okay,
it
marks in
can
a
it
test.
has it can have an absolute zero when where the student might have not attempted any question, something.
Answered it, but it was a wrong one. Okay. Can't mark
Okay.
it.
Like many anything like there can be an absolute zero, and then we can I don't know, yeah.
Okay, but if I would say ratio scale has all the properties of nominal, ordinal, and interval. So if you give an example of marking in the examination, how will you prove that it has the interval scales properties as well? Where you are identifying the intervals in that?
See, we can categorize it into intervals, like the students who have scored from 0 to 50, then students who have scored from 50 to 75, and the students who have scored from 75 to 100. So we can divide it and create an interval level between which we could study them.
Okay, but when we used to have interval scale, can we go beyond 0 also?
Yes, we can go beyond 0 in interval scale. Like range would be -1 to 0, then 0 to 1, and then 1 to 2. So we can have that interval scale there. But in ratio scale, we only would be considering, yes, in ratio scale also everything would be there, because there would be negative side also, 0 also, and positive side also it will be coming.
But then how come in the marks of a student you will range ki this student is achieving -1 से 0 के बीच में score? Is there any chance of a person getting marks in negative?
No, they will not get a negative marks, but that does not makes it that it is not an interval scale. It is an interval scale.
Ratio. I am. My question is ratio.
ratio it would be, see, ratio you will get a numerator and a denominator, and can show it is as a ratio part, as means, suppose I will say somebody has got 50 marks, okay, so and another has got 75 marks, so what would be the ratio of the both the students who have scored? So I could give by 50 by 75, and I can tell that this much would be the outcome of this classroom. So we can express it in a ratio part,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
say it. So the ratio scale becomes, we could show that this much part of the classroom is out of this, so this is like this, so this much ratio is there present.
We can basically present it in the form of proportions, means using ratios. Like, suppose age is an example of a ratio scale as well. Age is not. I was trying to think an example other than height and weight, which is already written. So, age could be one example. In which we can say if someone is 10 years old and someone is 20 years old, we can say that the person who is 20 years old is twice
Yes,
uh,
twice the age.
like double experience than that person who is 10 years old, something like that. Or any other example, other one more example I got, like, is of a speed. The speed can be zero, and when suppose someone is going at 10 kilometers per hour and someone is going at 20 kilometers per hour, we can say that the person going 20 kilometers at 20 kilometers per hour is in double, like it is double value than the 10 kilometer per hour, or double fast than the other one. So basically we can present it in ratio form.
Yeah, so true. You all have identified so many areas for this. What do you think about the NPC, normal probability curve?
Okay, what about it exactly?
Isn't it a ratio scale following?
Yes,
Like in
NPC,
what sense? I'm not getting.
see,
how the
normal.
NPC is drawn, isn't it following the ratio scaling?
Yes, it is following the ratio scale, because yes, because it is a bell-shaped curve. Okay, so
Okay,
middle point would come to be 0, left hand
yes,
side would be your negative score, and right hand side would be your positive score. So that was what we were studying on that day, Z score. So that
yeah,
side also we were saying +1 deviation, -1
yes,
deviation is there. So
yeah.
that is what.
But I
Hmm.
have a question. Isn't NPC used for like more like also show interval scores as well? Like some
Yes,
concepts which are
yes, it
measured on
will be there.
interval scale
At
can be
the
showed in.
ratio the strongest of the measurement, so it will
Hmm.
ultimately shows all the characteristics na, tabhi to it is in the
Yeah, yeah.
last.
Okay.
So,
Got
so my reason just putting this NPC, because we tend to find so many things outside. We never try to see which is present with us, which like you are like going through it daily on the daily basis for this throughout the module. You were getting into contact with this NPC, etc. But we tend to think for so many things which are outside of the things. That's what actually the human nature is all about. So yes, these were the four measurement scales you all have studied. So this is again a thoda sa statistical part, like what all if I would say statistical like this descriptive statistics or the inferential statistics which we can utilize in the nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio scale. So where you can identify the percentile, where you can identify the chi-square, where the percentages or mode is possible. So there are certain scaling techniques. So the first is the paired comparison scaling. So have you ever used this pair comparison method or pair comparison scaling?
Pearson's coefficient is
Anyone?
one. This only, no? Pearson's coefficient is paired comparison only we do, na? Yeah.
Anything else? Anyone would like to add or delete into that? Acha, what is paired comparison actually? Correlation to chodo. What is paired comparison?
Pairing two things. See, there is an x-axis one thing, one
Hmm.
other would be on the y-axis.
Okay.
We will see how this B is working with A, how B is working with B, B will be cancelled off. So nothing, no score happens to be there. Then how B is working with C.
Yeah.
So that is what it shows pairing.
Yeah, correct, correct. Very correct answer. Yes, that's what actually happens in the paired comparison scaling or method, and we usually use this while we are when we are you are doing certain. If I would say, ki, if you have to choose between the flowers or the cars, and you aren't supposed to comparing these two pairs, so which pair you will be choosing? So like that. Again, I'm giving you a random example. So in this way, the paired comparison is used. Then comes this rank order or the expert ranking that we have already studied. We used to take the ranking from the experts, whether this item is good or bad. We discussed in the last classes also. Then comes this constant sum scale. Have you ever used this constant sum scaling? Anyone? We always do this constant sum every time when we try to give our preferences wala part na. So I'll be giving this uh, ev- the ultimate thing, if I would say, for me, if I would say life satisfaction is 100, so for me 20% should be the work, 50% should be the food, like the good food, 20% would be the how much laser time I am getting, and 10% would be the others surrounding. So that's how you will be giving a sum of key. For me, 100% life satisfaction includes the 20% the work, 50% good food I require. So this is how you can measure using the constant sum scaling. Then comes this Q sort. See, this Q sort scaling, anyone have used or have studied about this Q sort? See, actually, this Q sort is majorly being used in the management or the HR positions. This Q sort is used. Again, this is a way of sorting from the best to the worst, and it is actually again a ranking method in which, like, you are on the basis of this much are being similar and this are not so similar. Acha, I can give you the example of this Q sort, though it is not a Q sort scaling. But do you remember your periodic tables? Hello, do you remember the periodic table?
Chemistry.
Helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, neon, right? The metals, how they were supposed to be input forth into the
Yes,
periodic
yes.
tables. So they are actually the Q sort techniques. They were actually, remember, these were the halogens were together. If you remember it like I don't know whether you had the chemistry part with you till 12th, but so that's what how they were sorted na, ki metals were together, non-metals into the diagonal positions, all those which are very precious metals, the like the gold, silver, platinum were together placed in this because they were sharing the similarity. So that's how this Q sort scaling you can understand from that. Continuous rating scale, we usually have these continuous rating scales. Likert scale we use every time, so I don't think so this need to be discussed. Semantic, I guess sir have already discussed with you all the semantic differential scales, how the scales are being used for the bipolar, like the two poles apart when we use the semantic differential. The staple scale, which is actually
And
is sorry,
one question.
huh?
What will be the difference between semantic and Likert?
Semantic and Likert. So for Likert, do you have the bipolar items or bipolar
Like
labels?
when we are saying strongly agree and strongly disagree, isn't it like bipolars or two opposites?
How come I am not able to get the point? Sorry.
Like I'm saying that in Likert also we say strongly agree or strongly disagree. So these two are also like different opposites.
Okay. See, Likert scale always say it is a summative rating scale.
Okay,
It
yeah, understood. Summation is there. Yes, yes.
okay.
And in this
So
semantic, summation will not be there. It will be
it
like categorical, right?
correct. Yeah. So because
Oh,
you Osgood semantic scale, you have gone through that Osgood semantic scale? Mein?
No, I don't remember. No.
I thought that would be okay. So Osgood का एक semantic scale है, but okay, you can
Okay,
take
fine. Like I understood is like
हाँ
these are the
हाँ
categories. Whether
हाँ
in
so
Likert scale we like summate it and
summative,
we
yeah,
get
yeah.
a
So that's
we
why
get
it
a
is called a
value.
summative rating scale also. No? The other name is given to. Then comes this
Yeah.
staple scale. Scale is the 10 wala scale जिसमें 10 points हैं. Then the Gutman scale. So remember I gave you the example of Gutman में back का example. What happens in the back rating scale? Remember the fourth item ultimately proves that the other three would also be proven correct for you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, back. So that's what actually the Gutman scale was talking about. So that was all from my end for the class today. Actually, this was the remaining part of the things that I wanted to cover from this module. So that was all from my end for the class today. So if you have any doubt related to today's class or from the last class, you can have it. Or if you have any doubt from the assignments, you can also put forth it right now. Or anything from your and tomatoes, chapels, everything's are invited for me. Whatever you want to say. Farah, the room is open for you and for others to like have if you have anything to say. From my end, the class is completed.
Thank you, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, ma'am. So I would like to share a PPT. This is just a small gesture from our side. So
So, Farah, please you
is
give
it
the vote of
visible?
thanks.
Oh, that's so nice, Farah. We all are here in this picture.
Oh,
Thank you
beautiful.
so much. Thank you so much, Farah. That's so nice.
Ma'am, we will miss you and we are very thankful for your dedication. You were very friendly and helpful towards the students. I hope students will miss you. Students, you want to say anything to your ma'am? Today is her
No,
last
they
class.
are not going to miss me because I am not that easy to be gone. So yes, I am there. So you no need to miss me. I am here only.
So students want to say anything to Ayushi ma'am? You want to any heartfelt expression? Hello everyone, are you there?
Yes, I want to say something. We enjoyed your class a lot, and I really appreciate the kinds of examples which you gave to help us understand. Those were very easy, and um, thank you for all your efforts. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am, your class was really interesting. Good. You have made statistics bit not lot easy. Okay. So it was really good part of the thing, interacting and learning and enjoying statistics with laughter.
Yes, especially loved your freshness and spontaneity, actually. And
Thank you so much.
yes,
That's a compliment. Thank you.
we'll really miss it, like in the future. And we hope you're coming back for the later modules, aren't you?
See, it depends on my busy schedule. The mediating variable actually is the busy schedule I am
Okay.
having. So yeah, because
Thank
if
you so much
for
for all
that.
the time you gave to us. Like, thank you so much. Like, so
Yeah,
great.
thank you so much, Swati ji. See, actually, it was very nice for me also to connect with you, a bunch of people who are very having like you all came up with so much of knowledge also, and the zeal, the enthusiasm you all have shown that made everything possible. And also the support given to me by Sir and Farah, I cannot like you we cannot miss on that part. So the constant support from Swara, the constant guidance from Sir will as is was there with me every time, and I know that would be with me for the future also. So yeah, that was with me, and yes, you all being so nice audience that you laughed on my lame jokes also. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was so nice and so kind of you all. Thank you.
Ma'am, don't cry. We have to take pictures also.
I won't cry. See, I am not a crybaby. I just don't cry on these things because I am here. So yes, though it was actually a formal thing too because we were concluding, but still I have to check your assignments. I request all of you to please submit assignments on time. Okay, and yes, you all are aware that you have your exam also coming up on 6th. So please prepare nicely for that because I am supposed to check that as well. And further, if you have any query related to, we all are connected on the WhatsApp group. You have my number also, so we can have like anytime if you feel like, or even if you are looking for certain good collaboration, research collaboration, I am available. Okay. Yes, Farah, we can have a picture.
Yes, ma'am. Students, are you ready? Okay, turn on your camera. Okay. Mona Lisa, where are you? Good. Okay.
Where
Ready?
is sir? Where is sir?
Oh, yes, sir. Sir, where are you? I think sir is adjusting camera. Sir, are you there?
See, actually, one of the pleasant thing for me for the class today was to hear the voice of like Sukhsiti, because every time I was actually just reading her text coming onto the chat section, so I was not able to recognize her voice. Otherwise, I was able to recognize voice of Varsha ji, and I was able to recognize between the voice of Swati ji and Anjali as well. And also, Dr. Nimrit has a very different voice, so you can easily identify her voice. But got to hear voice of Sukhsiti was actually a pleasant surprise for me too today. So yeah, that was there from one of small experience from my end. And yes, please keep learning, keep enjoying the classes. Thank you so much. Farah, have you taken the picture?
Yes, ma'am. I'm waiting for sir. Sir, I'm taking the picture. Okay, let's take a picture without sir first. Okay, smile. Smile, everyone. Say cheese. Good. Yeah. Okay, one more. I think we need one more. Ma'am, you're not smiling at all. This is not you. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm taking. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for supporting ma'am. And I hope you will support others also, like other faculty members. So see you in next
Bye
class.
bye everyone. Take care.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye,
Bye, ma'am.
ma'am.
Take
Bye,
care.
Kara.
It was nice connecting with you all.
Thank you,
Please
ma'am.
stay in touch, and whenever you are available for certain collaborations, please
Yes, ma'am.
let me know.
Sure. Sure, ma'am. Sure.